Welcome to the Growth Unleashed podcast. Today I have with me John Donahue. John Donahue has had a long-standing career in the technology industry, both with very large enterprise companies as well as some smaller startup types. Currently, John is with Day One Solutions. He's serving a couple capacities as a fractionalized CRO with some organizations and some other stuff. With that, I'll just say welcome, John.
Oh, did you want me to cover any other parts of my background?
Tell me a little bit about your background that got you up to where you are today.
Yeah, it's a little diverse. I joined a company by the name of Donahue, and that was HR, kind of talent management, applicant tracking that grew into talent suite with onboarding, performance management, and other elements. We grew that and then sold it to Oracle for roughly around $2 billion, right around the time when Oracle was creating a human capital management function and kind of launching a talent management suite with the acquisition of Taleo, the amalgamation or merging of PeopleSoft, EBS, and Taleo. We helped bring that to market and grew that. While that was recruiting and talent management at Oracle, I ended up leaving and joining a startup with some other people from Oracle. It was a company for construction. That company kind of was more involved with the convergence of technology from the cloud. They had just, this would have been back in, 2014, 2015, maybe, where we stayed there and, used the iPad to bring some technology out to the field level worker and grew that. In about 4 or 5 years, we took that from virtually no revenue to $100 million and sold that to Autodesk. Since then, I've been CRO of a couple companies while also spending some time helping a not-for-profit. Instead of world domination in software, I'm trying to change the world in a couple other areas, but still advising a number of companies that are trying to struggle with two things. What do we do with AI these days? And how does that impact sales? And how do we kind of fix what's going on in our, what I'll call a sales supply chain?
Yeah, that's great. No, and that's a perfect segue, jumping right into, AI as it relates to growing organizations. So tell me some of the things you're seeing out there right now, with AI as far as it relates to growth of various different types of organizations. I mean, maybe give a little bit more on what types of companies or industries or size of organizations are you working with predominantly?
Well, we see different sizes. I see some on the venture capital, the early stage seed up to A. And then we have some private equity clients that are more larger and trying to figure out, and that's not to be too cliche, but they have to earn the burn, so to speak. So they're trying to do more with less. So they're trying to figure out an AI strategy. But AI is, I wouldn't say problematic, but some people just think, oh, maybe we can reduce headcount and do more with technology. But it's more than that. They're not really figuring out how to leverage it properly into their sales. Like I said, supply chain, both on marketing and also on sales. In the example I say, I start with a lot of customers who come to me like, hey, we're having a revenue problem, a pipeline problem. Let's go to any one of the chat tools, Chat, GBT, Perplexity, any of them. Tell me what you do. Let's go see if you even show up in the top 10 or 20. If you don't, there's something we have to address right there. The world of software evaluation is starting to change. Not everyone's starting at Google. Everyone seems to be starting with some of these AI tools because they can continue to iterate on what they're looking for. I'm looking for this. Give me the top 5, top 3. We're like this. And it's a little bit different than Google looking through sponsored ads. So we're seeing a shift away from the traditional marketing, the SEO, the pay-per-click. And that's creating a challenge for the marketing side. And, the spend of marketing dollars and the yield you're getting back is dropping off almost in a way they can't adjust on the fly to. And, sales is, hey, maybe we can automate, whether it's we're going to use Gong, we're going to use some of these other technologies to automate email campaigns and do all that. So we won't have to, and maybe we can reduce a head or two. That's not necessarily getting the pipeline effect everyone's looking for. So it's a balance on, can you help use AI? How would you use AI on the sales? How would you use it on marketing? What do we have to do to change the paradigm of work? And that's that whole supply chain conversation that I'm starting to have, because people just, again, using supply chain, if the boats aren't leaving Japan or China, don't blame the sales team because the boats aren't getting to the LA terminals and I have no product to sell. Mm-hmm. That's the software is a little bit different, but the same principles hold true about top of funnel. If you're not If you don't have enough top of funnel, you're not going to have enough falling out the bottom.
So strategically, how are you engaging these conversations? I mean, how are you helping organizations really handle that problem? Because certainly, I mean, AI today, there's so much talk about how AI can help fill the funnel, execute through the funnel, nurture, convert clients, and so forth. So from a strategic standpoint, how are you working with companies and helping with that?
I created a spreadsheet. We've all seen the massive spreadsheets and the formula and predictives. And I'm like, look, I just want to have a simple conversation. Let's just look at some of your metrics. What's your revenue? How many reps? What's your average deal size? A couple other questions. Then I go into, once I've got that, everyone in sales is somewhat familiar with doing that math and like, oh, I have $1 million quota. I have 50,000 average deal size. I need 20 deals to hit my number this year. What people and organizations and boards are struggling with is I don't think they do the math to say, what does the marketing team need to generate? What is the percentage of pipeline that they're supposed to pass over? Is it 50-50? Is it 60-40? Whatever it is, put that in the spreadsheet, and you can reverse engineer to say how many outbound outreach inquiries does, email blasts and other things that marketing may need to do to transition. So, we start there because I still say that many people don't even know where the problem is. It's easy to say, we're not making our number, let's point at sales. It could be a product challenge. It could be marketing. Like I said, I have one client where year-over-year revenue was the board said you have to grow revenue 20% to their CRO, but BD and marketing had fallen off, and there's a trailing effect, but it was off 90% year-over-year. How do you hit those numbers? How do you grow 20%? And depending on if it's a large enough company, you might be able to do something with your install base. But if you're a small startup, you don't have enough economy of scale and enough customers to sell more product into. You have to go get net new. And then once we've identified where the roadblock or the challenge might be, again, not pointing fingers, just let's have a conversation with the executives. Let's see if we can identify the challenge. Outreach before someone engages. Is it 12? Is it 15? Is it 6? How many of those convert to MQLs, marketing qualified leads? And then again, are we converting to SQLs or SQOs, depending on what companies do? And that's that math, in some organizations per rep, you might have to get 70,000 outbound emails and attempts just to pass 30% over to the sales team to work. That math sometimes doesn't work. And that's where the conversations with the board and the executive, everyone wants revenue, but you got to look at the mechanics of what it takes to produce.
Yeah, for sure. It seems so many people are just getting bombarded with emails that just go to their junk or get automatically hit by the delete key. When you're talking about sending 70,000 emails,
well,
which isn't everybody.
You can get caught and accused of spam. People can then block you. And to your point, Glenn, nobody is really reading those emails like they might have 10, 15 years ago. People have become oversaturated. They don't respond to in-mails. People are trying new techniques. AI can maybe help get volume out, but we're seeing a little bit of a pushback where some people are reacting negatively if they don't think they're engaged with a human being first.
Yeah, for sure.
I've got a recruiting firm that I'm working with. The first recruiting conversation they have is with an AI tool where they're asking the questions. And I'm like, really? If that works for you, great. But I know some people would react negatively to that. So there are things I'm saying, put in your email subject, I'm a real human being type thing, and see if that. But how do you get someone to engage? We see people trying to text more often just to get a contact because most people don't answer their cell phones if they don't know who it is.
Yep, for sure.
There's not a lot of new. AI is still so nascent that people aren't sure how to leverage it properly. Yeah. We have seen better results by, using a certain methodology about be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. And that means short, succinct, just tell them what you want and see if they engage that way.
Yeah. Well, and there's also different, there's a lot of different changes and strategies nowadays with cold outreach and focusing more on the gives at the beginning, like when you first reach out to somebody, it's like get their attention by offering to give them something for free, like a lead magnet or something rather than initially asking for something. Because otherwise you're just going to throw in the trash can.
Yeah. And, that's exactly true. But we are seeing some better results just going back to old school, flat out cold calling. The most recent 5-10 years, everyone's been trying to do everything with more email, more LinkedIn, more social. And I don't know that anyone can really extrapolate at the B2B. B2C, maybe, but B2B, I've yet to see sustainable outcomes from using those tools. And some marketing people are saying there's not a lot of new things to try until we figure out this AI, because you can spend money to be seen on Google, search engine optimization, pay-per-click, sponsored ads, all that. These AI tools and the algorithms, you can't really pay yet to be seen. You have to almost do things organically to get, whether that's thought leadership pieces, cross-posting, getting picked up by other articles.
Yeah.
PR, we're seeing at some levels, PR is almost a re-engaged function where if somebody knows how to use it and get the data out about a company and get it picked up, then, like I said, back to my earlier comment, somebody says, hey, we're looking for workforce automation software or whatever, even a CRM. If you don't show up, that's a failed AI strategy. But so many people are caught off guard. If you've been doing this for 10, 20 years, you may not know fully how to deploy and leverage this properly so that you can get your product seen across the others that are out there trying to find the same thing. Be seen.
For sure. What are you seeing as far as the role of the CMO, the CSO, the CRO? How are you seeing that's shifting and changing with what's going on with AI?
Well, I think you can get ideas and content validated quicker. So you could, again, I'll start marketing first and I'll come over into sales. Marketing comes up with some pretty good stuff. What's our ideal customer profile? What's our go-to-market strategy? We can iterate, we can look at the numbers. That can help. They can make presentations and they can build playbooks fast. But you still need someone to review that to say, does it make sense? Can a human being pick this up and leverage it and use it? Some people, I have some companies who just go to like a ChatGPT and say, there's my new playbook. And I'm like, yeah, if we use something like ABM, if your price point is say below 50,000, and depending what industry, what you're trying to sell, ABM might not be something you can really deploy and use. Now, marketing people may challenge me on that, but you don't have the economy. The deal size isn't big enough to really deploy that if it's, if your average price point is 15, 20, 25,000. So if you just let AI do it, it kind of doesn't know when it's wrong sometimes. So we have to tell it. When you have someone senior enough to push back and iterate and challenge the AI tool that's giving some of this content back to you, that's helpful and you can get there. When you get to the sales side of things, it's great, depending on what you're using, to automate an email response. But you still have to tell it, hey, I want short emails. I don't want to give it everything. Like, again, salespeople are kind of taught to control outcomes. Don't give it all away. Don't say about discount, start with budget pricing. But if they say, can you send me something? Again, depending on the nature of your product and platform, is it a full enterprise tool? Is it a point solution? And how you respond? Some of these things, you still have to go back and ask some of the basic questions. Don't become so dependent on AI because, again, the AI tool can tell you what to ask, but you still have to ask the question. Do you have budget? What's your timeline? Who's your current vendor? If, is this going to be kind of a rip and replace, or is it net new where we have to build a business case versus, oh, we already have budget. We can slide in this way. Oh, wait, you're not going to be out of contract for 2.5 years? Not really something I'm going to be expecting my sales team to really grind hard on right now, unless there's a catastrophic failure of that solution. And so that becomes, if you're in, just to wrap this up in sales, depending on price point, if you're an enterprise rep and your average deal size, let's just say, is a couple $100,000 to $1 million, that rep might work on 5, 10 deals a year, depending on their book of business, and they can manage that. They wouldn't have to kick it back to marketing. But if you're in a transactional environment doing 20, $5, $10, $25,000, you need a volume. Your salesperson can't be responsible for that nurturing. AI can help with that nurture. We either kick it back to marketing and let that AI tool, whether it's outreach or some of the other tools. Gong is something as a tool, clarify, and some of the others. I like it if they can find the patterns in the data that shows that a deal moves forward. What are the terms that seem to move a deal from B to C? Let's repeat that, as opposed to, I don't like the micromanaging. I think Gong has amazing capabilities, but I don't see everyone using it properly yet. And that there's an AI component to that, can supplement your sales and your engagement, and how somebody says a competitor, how do you respond? The human mind doesn't really learn unless you see another human being doing it.
Yeah, those are definitely good distinctions. I think marketing and sales, the role is definitely, there's a bleeding area of overlap now. I think a much grayer area in some regards of, whether it's marketing, sales, and really doesn't matter. It's trying to get those conversion metrics from marketing and sales. Used to be very much like a throw it over the fence type thing, but now I think there's just more overlap between the two.
With that.
Yeah. And what about, so tell me about, so your business, so you're working with clients as a fractional CRO. How are you how are you growing your business? How are you finding your clients?
Well, again, having a background at Oracle and a couple of the bigger companies, people can find me. I've managed large teams, 50 to 100 salespeople across North America, but had a broader responsibility. Some people come to me. Sometimes I look successfully. I will ping into the venture capital contacts I have and also the private equity. For a while, venture investment was down, so not a lot. So private equity was yielding a better engagement because, quote myself earlier, earn the burn. They're going to try and take down, not maybe to a whole skeleton team, but they're going to want to balance and manage the debt a little bit more lean. And so the approach, and sometimes it's not just fractional. There are times where I'll do sales. I'll fly down or train down to New York or someplace else and do a training day or a couple of days to kind of help coach. Sometimes morale is beaten down. You'd be shocked at how morale is really depressing a lot of salespeople. And they see, salespeople are feeling the impact that, like, is my job going to be eliminated at some point because of AI? Marketing people are saying in the same thing. So people are paralyzed and, but they still need, some of the basics still need to be adhered to. AI can be great. Like I said, sometimes I even use it to draft an email. I get stuck and I don't, I'm just some guy from Boston, so sometimes I want a little bit more finesse in my email. So I'll use AI and I can tell it, do this. No, I don't want that much force, little subtle, do this. And that's great, and even still on InMail. And there are tools out there that can broadcast into LinkedIn, the Sales Navigator to get. But if I'm trying to find business, I haven't really had to grind it out, because I'm not trying to take on 30 clients at a time, just a handful here or there, 6 to 12 month engagements is ideal. Sometimes they just need an evaluation. Sometimes they need a full fractional. And what I will say is, one of the interesting things, there's a lot of people who are doing advising up, go to market strategy consulting and the up to the board level. But what we're seeing is a lot of organizations need help in the trenches. Who's teaching salespeople how to manage? How do they forecast? Do they understand how to forecast? Have you hit these? Do they have budget? Do you know who the signers are? Have you done all this? We're seeing some people not training BD people, promoting them into sales. Nobody's showing the mechanics. I would say sales is more of an art form than a science. So we shouldn't treat it and try to automate it. If you think you can just do everything without a salesperson, and there are some companies out in Silicon Valley that, hey, let's see if we can get to $1 billion with one employee, which I don't want to see that unless I'm the one employee.
Right. And I mean, it's evident when we see how many layoffs are happening out there because a headline says, X thousand employees laid off because of AI, to further investment in AI. But yeah, it goes back to the same theme of AI shouldn't be replacing people. It should really just be augmenting and really enabling and helping organizations and people do their jobs more strategically and better and more efficiently. But the thought that AI is replacing people, that definitely is something that, fortunately see companies executing on a little too much.
Well, I would say, like, there are some companies that, if your average deal size is 25,000, but you want to go upstream, land and expand is a viable strategy for a lot of companies. And they want, and some salespeople have the ability to land, but they can't expand that deal. AI can help think about it and create that playbook, but you still want somebody who can sit down at the C level, not the field people. If I use construction as an example, it's a perfect example. You've got all these projects across a city, a metro region, North America, and you can sell these deals, land and expand. But some of these companies are having struggle doing the roll-up, having a more enterprise message. And how do you take this conversation about data collection and expand it into other areas to help the original business? But, in construction, when the building is complete, you give all this data over to the owner. to help facilitate and manage that building for the foreseeable future. Who's going to have that conversation? How do you engage the building owner and the developer beyond just the general contractor? And there are elements like that AI can really help craft that message. Some people just don't know how to ask the right conversations. That's the challenge I see. Some people just want to trust AI and won't push back. They think it's maybe smarter than they are. And I'm like, quite frankly, it's not. Think of it as somebody in high school who doesn't know what an adult knows. You can teach it, you can tell it, and it will learn and get better over time. I encourage people to do it that way, but don't just depend on change a whole market strategy and go to market just because one tool said do this, because you might have forgotten to give it 4 objects that are critical for it to know what to do and advise.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a high risk in just being overly dependent on AI to really solve it all and do it all.
Yeah, 100%.
Human interaction is very critical in this business of sales and marketing and all of it. So one last question now. What do you see in the next 6-12 months? How do you see marketing, sales, and companies that are looking to grow rapidly? How do you see AI dramatically making changes over the next 6-12 months?
That's a great question, Glenn, because now's the time of year where a lot of companies are wrapping up Q4, whether it's year end, which is calendar, or fiscal, they end in January, February. So not that they haven't already had the conversation, what's going to be our revenue projections? We did X this year. We want to grow 20, 30%. I'm seeing people trying to have that conversation because they may not have hit their targets. And if they did wipe out the pipeline, so to speak, what are you going to do next? Like if you've just cleaned it out and discounted your way to get to the number this year. I have one client that's, they originally forecasted for the year about 46, 47 million. They're probably going to come in at about 41 million. And they don't know, they're not going to make their number. And people are getting beat up, but I can already show them you were never going to make that number last year because you didn't look at the metrics from sales. Like, you can't just add headcount if you don't add the infrastructure, the capability. If, like I said, if marketing, and seriously not trying to pick on marketing, but if there's an agreed upon relationship that 50% of pipeline will come from marketing, business development. Okay, so you look at rep generated pipeline and all these other things. If the reps are closing at 25% and those metrics are going good and the numbers aren't looking good on marketing, let's have the open dialogue. Let's look, what can we do? What should we do? That's the challenge. I think boards need to look at, and the C-suite, forget about pointing fingers. This is too dangerous a time right now. Don't point fingers. Don't say it's sales. Don't say it's marketing. Don't say it's product. I look at it almost like a football game. You need offense, defense, and special teams to win a game. I need them all. If any one isn't doing it, we're certainly not going to win the championship this year or any year. So we need everyone pulling in the same direction, and we support those. And so we try to make sure we're not pointing fingers. We're just trying to find, where do we need to address some things? It could be sales. It could be marketing. It could be all of it. And, we have that open conversation to start there. But for me, if they just want me to help their sales team close more deals and what techniques, I can, I have a little bit of an a la carte menu where I can just say, hey, I'll come in for a day. We'll talk about some motivational things. We'll talk about just techniques. If you subscribe to BANT, MedPick, Medic, whatever it is, gap selling, solution selling, whatever it is, I can work within that construct. But let's stop committing to all that. Let's just go with the basics. What's common sense? Look, like I said earlier, if somebody is in contract for 2 more years, you shouldn't be working as hard on that deal unless if you have another prospect that can close in 4 to 6 months. You have to prioritize. You have to evaluate. Some people don't ask the question, who is your current vendor for that solution? So they don't know that they're in contract and they'll spend. These little basic tools can get alignment and prioritization so that you're not wasting time and you're not giving fake forecasting or hope. Like, sales is not about hope, and we've all heard that quote, hope is not a strategy, but there's techniques you can do to safeguard. And I don't know that managers know it well enough. And we have some younger people who maybe haven't been trained properly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I come in and try to do that, and it's great to see success starting to change.
Yeah. Well, if any of the listeners out here are interested in learning more about your services, how you can help their businesses grow, generate more revenue, how would they get in touch with you, John?
Well, the easiest way, ironically enough, is, unlike most salespeople, my telephone number is in my LinkedIn profile.
Pretty risky. I like
Who's going to call me? People who want to talk to me about business? Okay, I'll take that call.
No, yeah.
Most people don't, And so I'm like, why wouldn't you? You don't have to take it. It'll go to voicemail. You don't have to answer it.
I'm curious, how much spam do you get? Do you get a lot of spam calls, you think, from that?
No, because there are times I can see more. I'll see text, but it works pretty well. I haven't been oversaturated. Again, you go into voicemail, you can watch it, like AI will convert. And I'm like, ooh, and I'll pull out a voicemail. And I'll take the live call if it's something relevant. If it's someone I don't know, but they're saying, oh, hey, I saw your podcast with Glenn Bronstein. I'd like to talk to you about this. I'll pull that right up. Sometimes it'll just go to voicemail, but the easiest way is that, or, my contact information is on LinkedIn, but if somebody wants my telephone number, it's out there. Anyone can call anytime. I'm fearless on that. Call me.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
All right. Well, find you on LinkedIn, John Donahue on LinkedIn, and get the phone number published. Fantastic. Thanks, John. I appreciate the time today, and have a wonderful day. And thanks everybody for watching.
Happy holidays to all of you.
Thank you. You as well.
Take care.
All right. We'll stay on just a minute here. So I keep it just recording. So yeah, like I said, we'll go ahead and, I have a team that'll go ahead and put this in production. They do some really good fine editing, and you can publish it to your LinkedIn, distribute it how you want. What I usually do with most of the folks that I have on here, because like I said, usually I'm having CEOs, founders, leaders who are themselves running business versus you're more, on the outside with your clients. What I typically do is we have a process. I give this to them for free for being on the podcast. It's basically helping create a growth plan, which essentially is like a free blueprint and roadmap for using AI to help them grow the businesses. I would offer it to you, but for your business, it's yours a little different, right? Because you're serving as more of an outside capacity. That said, look, I told you what we do, what I do. We have a growth partnership where we align and partner with companies to help them grow. Our success depends on their success. So I definitely would love to hear if there's any clients you think that now that you're coming in from more of a strategic capacity with a lot of these clients.
Yep.
One of the questions I was going to ask, but I never really got there, was how do you then get them to the next level of executing? If you're going to strategically guide them on how AI perhaps could help increase more quality leads, take that time off the sales rep's plate, like you were talking about before with lead nurturing, then it's like, what do you do to help execute?
Yeah, sometimes if it's more marketing oriented or we identify that it can be, I'll recommend a few colleagues or friends from marketing. And they're like, look, we get this, we talk, like you need to get the top of funnel. Like I said, it was a former employer that I had a very difficult conversation with towards the end because marketing was supposed to pass $2 million a quarter in pipeline to me and my team. 2 quarters in a row, they were under 70,000. I can't make that up. That's not my issue. And so I'm not going to be sitting here taking the beating in forecast meetings when, and it happened to be, a relative of one of the other founders. And I'm like, look, that's not for me. I can tell you what to do. This is what we can do. Sales is functioning fine. Our close rates are up. Our average deal size is up. We brought in the biggest deals in the history of the company, and we quadrupled revenue in year 1. But I'm not going to be able to do it again because that part isn't functioning. And that's a marketing problem. I have some suggestions, and that's where I'm familiar with AI. And I would say, look, we tell the CEO, you guys need to embark on, thought leadership pieces, getting content published, picked up, cross-posted, and do that. Because if you can't just send emails and nobody's responding, what are you going to do? My client, one of my customers, company I used to work at, PlanGrid, we were spending $250,000 a month on SEO. Okay, we might get 500,000 plus from that. You can't spend that now, especially if you don't have the money, but you're not getting that yield anymore either.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't suggest doing it. And one of my clients just stopped spending because they can't outspend the number one, the 800-pound gorilla in their space who's going to spend millions per month. So they have to go. They have to go a different way at it. And so when it gets to that, I'll bring in a marketing peer, colleague, somebody. I said, look, here's your problem. If people are still on demand gen, lead gen, okay, if it's an AI strategy, I might give you a call kind of thing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So what I do, I'm working predominantly, my focus right now is on tech companies and the wellness industry. I know they're very opposite, obviously, but those are kind of where my footprint's been over the years. Really working with those companies that are in a high growth phase, They don't know how to leverage AI to help accelerate that growth. And what I have in my arsenal is a lot of resources and a lot of tools from a lot of these resources that I work with globally. It's a program, I don't want to say program, but it's a group that I'm partnered with globally.
Yep.
And we can implement solutions, but it's less about the tools and the technology. It's more about the revenue that we're agreeing to or committing to.
Mm-hmm.
So as an example, like I'm working on a proposal right now that I got to finish when we get off, but it's working with a wellness company who is currently not doing anything with digital marketing. They have no CRM in place. They have no way to nurture their leads.
Mm-hmm.
They have no way to track their conversions. When I say how many customers you have that converted from Google, they don't have any of that. So we can help with all of that and basically generate enough qualified leads from our marketing and AI generating offers to basically help boost the business. I do with B2C companies. I do B2B. I'm working with another company where they're not even going to touch the marketing. They're not even going to touch the CRM. We're basically giving them X number of highly qualified leads, and we are putting a guarantee in place that they will hit this number within 90 days, or we'll continue doing so and work for free until they get it. A lot of it's like selling qualified leads through AI generation.
Yeah, which is great, and people need that. What I like to do is work with the frontline salespeople or frontline managers to try and get them to be better. That's what I enjoy doing the most. I can do a breadth of things. I'm fine if I don't have to do another PowerPoint for a board of directors. Working with these people to say, okay, I can listen to a couple of gong calls and like, okay, they're not, it's not right. You're not doing everything the right way. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about how we, like, don't just, when someone, I'll tell you one company, whenever somebody asks for a price quote, they automatically drop 25%. You haven't even secured the revenue. You're not even selected. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
That's insane. I said, if you sell 4 deals, you give a 25% discount. You sell 1 more to get back to zero, get back to being whole. And we started talking about that. Like, why don't you?
You're also devaluing your solution. You're
correct.
Devaluing what you offer.
Talk about this and say, look, depending on length of contract, how many licenses, depending, there's 100 things that could happen. Time of year. I even say, tell your client, depending on how desperate I am for my number will matter, how hard I'll fight for a discount for you. But I'm not going to give you anything right now. Here's the max it will be. This is budgetary price. Here's full list. I said, I'll make you look like a hero at the end, but we're going to have a long journey together. Let's talk about that. You don't care what the price is if it's not the right solution.
Yeah.
So many people just don't know how to have a conversation about this internally or with clients.
Yeah.
Don't give your best price because because everyone's going to come back. If you ever end up in procurement, they're going to start with that discount and hammer you down.
Yeah, no doubt. And especially when they look at it from a cost perspective rather than a value perspective. I mean, like, that's another thing we do differently with our business is what makes us very different than like a marketing agency or consultancy. The way we propose our solutions is not based on just the dollar cost, but we work with the customer to understand what are your revenue goals, and here's how we can help you get to those goals. And we just want a piece of that pie. So like our services are based on value, revenue generating value, not about just cost. If I said a customer of mine, it's going to cost 10 grand a month, that might sound like a lot. But if I said it's going to cost 10 grand a month and we're going to generate 100 grand in revenue for it,
all day long.
That's how we work.
Yeah. And I think there'll be one of the people I'm going to call after this, you and I are connected on LinkedIn. I don't know how well you know Jason Crow, but
oh my God, which one? So we had 2 that I worked with at Salesforce. Which one? Where does he live? What does he do?
He is in Florida.
Yeah. And
he was at Taleo. He's a good friend. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but he's the one who gave me your cell phone number that I could text you because I didn't have it.
That's hilarious. I was wondering how you got my number. Okay.
Again, Jason, I'm in sales. I know how to, who would have the information I need and how am I going to get it? But Jason, there's another gentleman that we used to work with together you should talk to who's doing some fractional and doing some other stuff. You should talk to him. He's another good guy. Like, I've got this small network of those that are people again, there's a marketplace for in the trench, teaching people how to close. Not just, here's my playbook, here's what we did, do this. those guys can do it all day long. I haven't seen a lot of people who have effect change. I prefer to get in the trenches, work with the sales team, and help them close deals. On some clients, I'll be the head of sales, and I'll be the one trying to figure out, okay, where are we in the deal? What needs to happen? And putting together close plans. Some people don't even know fundamentally how to do that.
Oh yeah, I get it for sure. So is Jason at Informatica now?
Yeah.
That's funny. Now I'm looking right now at his LinkedIn. I had no idea. I haven't spoken to him since my Salesforce days.
Well, he says good things about you.
Well, good. I'm going to ping him after we get off here. That's great. That's good to hear his name again. Last I talked, wasn't he? I think he just built a house or something last I talked to him in Salesforce down in the west coast of Florida. But anyways, no, he's a great guy.
We worked together at Oracle, and he came through us through the acquisition of Verve. We had acquired Verve technology into Taleo, and then
I see.
He and I worked together at Oracle, and just a great guy.
Yeah, definitely. Well, awesome. Anyway, I can help you out if you have any need for really hitting the ground running and implementing something that'll help your clients grow. I try not to box it in too tight because we can do a lot.
Yeah.
It's really just anytime looking at a customer is really struggling with growth, and AI really well, obviously. You understand the benefits AI can deliver. That's where we can help. I have a whole team globally that can help with that.
If you've got more the approach of like, hey, a company doesn't really gone with an AI strategy or digitalization and what tools they can use, I would send a client of mine to you for that, I think, is what you're saying.
Say that one more time.
You said you've got some recommendations on what tools to use and how to do that with AI. There's probably a suite of product sets you would recommend how to use.
It's
like into their tech stack.
We use the AI tools, like my team.
Okay.
We use it to help generate, to find leads, qualified leads, convert, nurture
like
leads.
Those, what was a company up here in Boston? Are you familiar with By Appointment Only?
Is that a, wait, I know the name.
BAO?
Yeah. I feel like I've heard of them.
They used to use my Taleo software. We used to use them at Taleo where we'd go in and pay them X amount to set up meetings for our sales team.
Yeah,
but exactly. I think what you're talking about is using AI and taking it and being more judicious with time and effort and getting better quality. And you'll have whatever metric a company says, like we use BANT. Okay. Before you kick it over to them, you will make sure you've got all those things laid out.
Exactly. And most of it's automated and it's really high quality. Another example. So I have a friend who he does fractional CEO work in the healthcare or medical device industry, life sciences, I should say. And he works predominantly with very similar what you said, like, pre-VC, Series A-ish, A-B-ish companies in the life sciences space, which there's like 50-something thousand of them. And he helps place CEOs and he helps do C-level executive advisory work. But he can't find all these prospects. How does he find the right companies, the right decision makers? How does he come up with the right messaging to get in front of them? Like we were talking earlier for, cold email outreach, cold LinkedIn outreach. So we have a lot of really good tools that can help identify who those, A, what those companies are, B, what those, especially the ones in the right funding stage too. Like we can, filter down by the right funding stage, who the right decision makers are, how much they've spent, in certain areas in the past year or two, and then start building some like slow nurture conversations with these executives rather than just come at them really super hard with like a sales pitch from day one. So, that's kind of an example. And so like it shields him from having to invest the time and money to do that. All he wants to do is close the business and place his CEOs. He doesn't want to have to deal with all the...
Before I got into software, I was an executive recruiter and did it at the largest company, Heidrick & Struggles. So I still get asked to do that from time to time as part of my umbrella of services, I guess, because, it's not that difficult for me to jump in and do a CEO, CFO, or board member search. If I want. I have a guy who used to be our CMO who doesn't want to be... He's like, AI is changing it. He went out and started an executive search firm. And he's just placing CMOs right now.
Yeah, it seems like it's a common. I just got off another one right before the call with you. Somebody who built an AI-based recruiting tool to basically. I just think it's a big space right now.
Yeah.
Anyways,
thanks, Glenn. Let me know what it looks like when it's done.
I definitely will. I'll send it over. Help
Yeah,
you,
no,
help out.
I'll talk within my small network of CROs who also have some clients who might need, because you're kind of generating the pipeline.
Pretty much.
I don't have to
Yeah.
sugarcoat it. You're
We're
qualified.
generating a pipeline using AI solutions, which a lot of companies are looking at how to invest in doing that with the right tools and the right people.
Yeah.
We basically are doing it for them.
Now,
You know,
are you handing over what we would call do you distinguish between sales qualified lead versus sales qualified opportunity?
yeah, I heard
Distinguish?
you mentioned that at one point. You were throwing those acronyms around. We don't necessarily. I don't use that for now. I mean, we'll call it whatever the company, customer wants for sure. But by all means, we're putting it through a pipeline one way or the other. Whether they're going to call it Salesforce, we call it leads, opportunities. I think HubSpot calls them leads the whole way, but it's qualified, pre-qualified, or whatnot.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever we call it, yes, in concept, we're going from a sales qualified, we're like an MQL, marketing qualified lead, through the
That's why some
nurturing
people do
warming
MQL
process.
to SQL. And I'm like, if sales doesn't accept and doesn't agree to work it, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I don't need something from, not saying you, but I don't need my BD guy just to get a bonus because I'm selling software and these guys are looking for washing machines. That doesn't help me.
Mm-hmm.
Sending over something, I just want to see that my sales team, they might say everything's there, bad. No, I want to say, is this salesperson going to accept it and continue to work it? Then I'll track that. That's what matters, because then we will track close rates. Because, like I said, maybe somebody will send over, but they're not going to be able to buy for 2 years. Is that a lead now that I should pay you for?
Qualified. Yeah, it's not.
It's qualified. They might be interested, but if they can't buy for 2.5 years, should I don't know how what your fee structure is, but should I be paying you for something like that?
Right.
I'm not really working. It can't close in my fiscal period.
That's where
I was just curious on what, and it sounds like you'll base your fee or your structure on whatever their processes and definitions are.
And based on how much revenue they're getting out of it. So we're not throwing just a bunch of junk leads, because that's going to lower the investment potential or the revenue potential. Ours is all about quantity and quality. Like right now, I have a fitness studio, is my business where I am right this second. In my studio here, I had a marketing agency that they kept saying to me, "Oh, we're helping you out. We're doing, we're super successful because we're giving you X number of leads every single month." Well, the problem was only like 2% of those leads were converting here, because they were sending me just like anybody and everybody in Atlanta who says they want to look for fitness. But that's not our demographic. And so, our example, like what I did now, is I used my tools and my resources. So now everybody who we do talk to has at least been vetted that, they're into fitness. Yes, they have the right budget that we're looking for. Yes, and yes, they understand that this is a monthly, commitment, like all the stuff that we were wasting too much time on down the road that should have been done in the upfront, during the qualification.
And that's where I want my sales team or anybody I'm consulting with to be talking to real people with real opportunities. Now, you did say something. I just want to validate, and I'll let you go. You do talk to people before you throw them over to a client. It's not just all emails and stuff. Do you somebody physically talk to the recipient or the prospect?
Honestly, I have one buddy of mine runs sales for a tech print management company. What they don't want anyone on our team. I'm not the one who's really doing a lot of the work.
Yep.
They don't want us to have the conversations. They want to be the first one to have the conversation. We don't want to enable and train another sales army out there to understand their messaging pitch and all. We have the messaging up to the point where we can hand it over as a SQO. And at that point, they're the ones that are having the initial, going through the pitch process from that point forward. So it all depends. If a customer wants us to have those conversations, we can do that too.
I've seen some companies try to outsource what you're kind of doing to areas, different areas of the world, the Philippines or whatever, and it's failing miserably. I know a company. Oh, maybe I'll talk to one guy. My CMO from Zenefits is over at a company. They just did a whole outbound cold calling, outsourced it, failed miserably. They're going to retool and come back. But I'm like, why don't they just, to supplement what happens, you fail again? Like you can be part of a dual strategy.
Yeah, for sure. We use a lot of Philippines and Nigeria, and I have a guy from anyways, I use them for a lot of the tech expertise and a lot of the automation expertise, but not as much for the conversational expertise.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, thank you.
Thanks, John. Okay, I appreciate it.
Take care.
Have a good one. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.